My everyday transportation is a Jeep Grand Cherokee, four-wheel drive SUV, sports utility vehicle. I know for a lot of people that SUV stands for suburban useless vehicle, but not in my household. Nothing I enjoy better than taking this thing out, ramming it in a four-wheel drive, driving it on roads that you can barely tell there's roads there, getting what's called desert pinstriping along the side from hidden bushes and things like that. And when I bring it home, if that thing is crusted in dirt and mud, I kind of like it. It shows people that I actually use this thing for what it was built to use it for. And it very, very rarely goes to the car wash. Now, this is also, as I think I might have said, my everyday drive. And a few years back, I, once a month, would drive Orthodox priests from here in Tucson down to Sierra Vista, to Fort Huachuca, basically, and he would do a divine liturgy for some people that were trying to start a mission church down there. So it's about a week before it's time for me to take Father Anthony down to Fort Huachuca, and Melody, my beautiful wife, looks at me and says, "Are you getting the car washed before you take Father Anthony down to Fort Huachuca?" And the way that is translated is, I'm getting the car washed before I take Father Anthony down to Fort Huachuca. It's not like there's, keep happy wife, happy life. So this is the way I normally get my car washed. I drive about 1 mile to the local car wash. I pull up. I look at the guy and say, "This is what I want done. I want the outside clean, waxed, undercarriage done, tires scrubbed, everything vacuumed on the inside, windows inside and outside. How much?" And he looks at me and says, "About $20. And I say, "Do it." Give him the keys, get out. He gives me a little ticket. I go inside. There's a cashier. Whip out the credit card, pay the $20. There's often a machine there with free bags of popcorn in. Grab a bag of popcorn and the car comes through the car wash. I can stand there and watch it go. Go outside, fire up a cigarette. Somebody will drive the car over to where there's about 6 to 8 guys working whose job is to wipe down the car, take care of the inside, wipe down the dash, and I go over to them and say, "Hey, when you're doing the windows, make sure you put the window down a little bit because, at the top of the window where it goes into the weather stripping, that's all dirty there. And when I put the window down, it looks a little, that dirty stripe there just doesn't look good." And generally, the guys do a pretty good job. Throw a couple dollars in the tip jar, drive off. Wife's a happy camper. I'm a happy camper because the wife's a happy camper. And I'm ready to take Father Anthony down to Fort Huachuca. So back in 2017, I remember it was in January or February. Once again, need to get the car washed. So I go to my usual car wash. Drive up to the guy and say, "Listen, this is what I want." Give him the same spiel I always give him. And he looks at me and says, "I'm sorry, sir. We have now converted to a self-serve car wash. We put in plenty of vacuums here for you that you can absolutely free use those vacuums. And I'll take your card right here. We'll line you up with the chain that drives you through the car wash and get out, pick it up on the other end, go on your merry way." Like, no, that's not how I want my car washed. So I say to him, "What happened to the full service?" "Well, I'm sorry, sir. We don't do that anymore. But so, hey, do you know any place that does?" "Well, there's another one down. I was on Golf Links or something. So I drive down there and get the car done there. And then I come home and go on the internet and I look up full service car washes, Tucson, Arizona. This is a town of 500,000 people. There's like 3 of them spread across town. It used to be every car wash in town was a full service car wash. Now, virtually overnight, the vast majority of them want to be self-serve only. Why? Well, I think I had the date wrong. It was 2018. That in 2017, the minimum wage in Arizona was $8.05 an hour. And then in January 2018, it increased by $2 an hour up to $10 an hour. And the law that they passed said that the minimum wage will increase every year based upon the cost of living. We don't need any legislative action. It will just automatically go up. Wasn't hard to put one and one together. Because now, if you go to an automatic car wash, there's a guy to take your money. He's the only employee. It used to be there was it was 2 guys right there when you first pulled up. You told them what you wanted. They vacuumed the car. Somebody took the keys, ran it around, ran it through the car wash. There was the employee inside that took your money. And then there were the 6 to 8 guys outside who wiped the car down and wiped down the dash and did the inside windows. All gone. Now, what kind of skills do you have? Work skills do you have if you're working at a car wash? Probably not a lot of work skills and or experience. This is the job you can get. And I'm pretty sure they were making minimum wage. Plus the tips that most people do throw tips in the tip jar. So that is, if it was 8 guys to wipe down the car, 9, 10 people lost their jobs. 10, mostly minimum wage workers, lost their jobs with the $2 an hour increase. To be the economist here, demand curve slope downwards. It's that simple. That if the price of Coca-Cola goes up, I drink less Coca-Cola and drink more Pepsi. And it's the same with firms. If the price of labor goes up, firms will use less labor and use the substitute capital. So what happened in the car washes, they laid off, and if you look around the town of Tucson, could have been 50 to 100 workers that were working at all these full service car washes. Jobs are now gone. And what did the firms do? They invested in capital. They put in all these extra vacuum cleaners that people could do their own vacuuming of the cars. And that's the standard economic theory of minimum wage. If you increase the minimum wage, some people will lose their jobs. And you may say to me, okay, you got one example of what happened to you in Tucson. Surely that doesn't happen anywhere. Well, another little side story. Years ago, I finally get on Facebook. And how do you pick the friends you want to send friend requests on Facebook? Well, for me, I wanted to see how people I went to grade school and high school, how they're doing. Maybe it was a little vanity on my part. Hey, I'm a college professor. How'd you turn out? But there was this one person, I sent a friend's request. He lives in California. He'll remain nameless. Went to school with him from like 1st through 8th grade. And ended up in 9th grade, he moved to California. So I wanted to see how he was doing, sent him a friend's request. He accepted the friend's request. And I started just reading through some of the posts that he'd put up. Not only did he go to California, he became a full-blown California liberal social justice warrior, virtue signaling individual. Any leftist cause he was really good to be supporting and saying how much he agreed and how great it was. And he put up a posting about increases in minimum wage, how he so much supported it. I forget if it was the state doing it or the federal government doing it, but he put up his support for increasing the minimum wage. So I put a comment on. I said, hey, this is the way minimum wage works. You increase the minimum wage. Some workers, they're very happy. Okay, they're just very happy. They're going to see their paychecks go up. But please answer me the moral question. Yes, some people are made better off, but some people are going to lose their jobs. What is your social justice approach? What do you tell the people that lose their jobs? And he was so into it that, oh, I don't think that many will lose jobs. I said, well, here's what economics, the research in economics has shown and things like that. I said, so I pushed him again. What are you going to tell? I said, for these workers, firms will decrease the amount of labor they have. Well, they don't have to. He just totally refused to address the issue that when you do a policy change like increase the minimum wage, some people are made better off, some people are going to be worse off. What are you going to tell the people that are worse off? And why am I doing this? Happened back in 2018. Why am I bringing it up today in 2025? Well, out of respect to this Facebook friend, well, he's not a Facebook friend anymore. We got into such heated arguments. He unfriended me and I unfriended him. But just to show, I'm going to bring up California Assembly Bill 1228. This was passed in September 2023. Governor Gavin Newsom, Assembly Bill, as I said, 1228. It established the Fast Food Council within California's Department of Industrial Relations. Just what California needs, another bureaucracy being paid by the taxpayers, and at the same time increase the minimum wage for 500,000 fast food workers from $16 per hour to $20 per hour on April 1st, 2024. Gavin Newsom celebrated his signing of this bill as one step closer to fairer wages by giving hardworking fast food workers a stronger voice and a seat at the table. I have no bloody idea what he meant by seat at the table and a stronger voice. Clueless on my part. And former Assembly member Chris Holden, a Democrat from Pasadena, who was the bill's primary sponsor, described it as one of the most impactful fast food wage laws that this country has ever seen. Yes, it was a very impactful law, but it wasn't impactful. Well, it was impactful for all fast food workers. Some saw larger increases in their paychecks. And so since the year passed, the National Bureau of Economic Research, the NBER, let me just say, National Bureau of Economic Research, a bunch of very good economists do what are called working papers for them. These are people that are not Democrats, not Republicans, not left-wing, not right-wing, not liberal, not conservative. They're just really good numbers crunchers who just like to study things and make a working paper, get comments, and then probably send the revised article off for publication in some peer-reviewed journal. So they did a study. A year had passed. Let's see the effects of California's increase in the minimum wage. Well, the first thing they found that California fast food workers saw their wages increase by 8% relative to the rest of the country. Sounds good. But it also found that California's fast food employment decreased by 2.6% from September 2023 to September 2024, whereas fast food employment elsewhere in the United States increased by 0.1% in the same period. That turned out to be a loss of 18,000 jobs just in California. They also, and another group, the Employment Policies Institute, they also studied this, but they looked at what happened to the median number of hours a fast food worker worked per week. And before the increase in the minimum wage, the median weekly hours was 40 hours a week. After the minimum wage, dropped to 35, which results in $4,000 in lost potential annual income under the $16 minimum wage. So not only did all those workers lose their jobs, many who kept their jobs saw their hours cut. So, did Gavin Newsom know this was going to happen? Yes. I'm sorry. Some people say, well, sometimes the government does policy, the government makes laws, they make mistakes. Mistake theory is no theory of government. What I'm talking about, I'm not this genius economist who could have sat down and predicted people were going to lose their jobs, hours were going to be cut. This is taught in every principles of economics course in the country. Don't tell me Gavin Newsom doesn't have advisors on staff who probably have masters and PhDs in economics. They had to know some people were going to lose their jobs. You never hear anything. You never hear these politicians say, oh, I'm for the working person. We're going to increase minimum wage. And sorry, some of you are going to lose your jobs. And for me, this is just a personal opinion on my part. The whole debate on minimum wage is what's usually called a red herring. Politicians get a lot of play out of it. Oh, I'm going to increase the minimum wage. I care about. And then you hear the stories about people trying to feed their family of four on the minimum wage and how difficult it is. And then you hear things about the living wage is so much better than the minimum wage. You hear all these things. So what I used to do back when I was still in the classroom, and I'd be teaching this, and I'd say, okay, when you increase the minimum wage, some people are going to lose their jobs, some people are going to see their hours cut, some people are going to be made better off. And then I look at the class and I say, okay, assume the minimum wage is $10 an hour, just for a number. Also assume there are, I'm just looking at some numbers here on my computer screen, approximately 35 million people in the United States working for an hourly wage. What, and as I said, assume the minimum wage is $10 an hour. What percentage of those workers earn exactly $10 an hour? Not $10.25, not $9.95. How many of those workers are paid exactly the amount of the minimum wage? And then I wait for it. Probably 50%. No, I think it's more like 70%. Oh, I think we're talking college students. So most of the people they know that have jobs are working, college students working in the service industry part-time. and they're probably making 40 minimum wage. So they come up with these numbers, 30, 40, 50, 60. I've had them go up to 80%. They honestly believe that 80% of all workers that are working for hourly wages in the United States are paid the minimum wage. I'm not making these numbers up, as far as the ones I'm about to tell you. I pulled, and I'll leave a link down below. You just type in characteristics of the minimum wage.gov. And every year, the government does a report about the people earning the minimum wage. This is what it showed in 2024. 2025 numbers, need to say, are not out yet. So you can look this up yourself. So then I would look at the students, and if I was doing that lecture today, and I'm using the data right now, it's not 20%. Well, let's do it the other way. It's not 70%. It's not 60%. It's not 50%. It's not 40%. It's not even 10%. It's not even 5%. It's not even 1%. 1/10 of 1% of all workers aged 25 years of age or older. Now, this is 277,000 people. It's a lot of people. But it's only 1/10 of 1%. Now, 16 to 19, 4/10 of 1%. As far as percentage-wise and everything, who's earning the minimum wage? Mostly 16 to 19-year-olds. But if you look at 25 years in age and older, and you can just, as I said, pull up the chart. You can go down the chart. Well, what about men and women? Nah, both still 0.1%. Looking at Black and African American, 0.2%. And here we're not controlling for race or anything, like just looking at the education level, things like that. Asians come out pretty good, 0.0%. And it's breaking down by men and women. Hispanics, 0.1%. And the interesting thing, those full-time workers, when you look at full-time versus part-time workers, for men, full-time workers, the percentage is 0.0%, 14,000. And for women, it's 0.1%, 15,000. So for full-time workers, only 29,000 people out of, what did I say, 35 million people are actually earning the minimum wage. It's just, and then, I'm sorry, I'm just always flabbergasted by the fact that so many of my students say 60%, 70%. And then part-time workers, now the numbers are bigger. For men, it's 0.4 of 1%. For women, it's 0.2 of 1%. But then again, when you throw in the idea that the vast majority of the people earning minimum wage are 16 to 24-year-olds working part-time in the service industry. Because if you look at occupations, I'm just going to scroll down here on my computer. Well, what about office workers? Office and administration support occupation, 0.0% make the minimum wage. Construction and extraction occupation, 0.0%. Production occupation, 0.0%. I'm just scrolling through here. Professional and related occupation, 0.0%. Are there some people out there trying to feed a family of 4 and they're earning the minimum wage? Yes. But if you think about it, so the argument is we should increase the minimum wage. Well, that is costing firms so much money. The better way to help those people that had the family of 4 earning minimum wage is increase their food stamps. Give them subsidized housing. That would be so much less cost to the economy than increasing the minimum wage. And I just want to leave you one more thing, because I've heard this argument. I actually heard, this was years ago, some gentleman was running for governor of Maryland. And one thing he came out for was supporting an increase in the minimum wage. Vote for me and I will make sure the Maryland minimum wage goes up. And his argument was, think about that. All these minimum wage earners now have more money in their pockets. Think of how this will stimulate the economy. They will now go out and spend that extra money. And that will be income to somebody else and make other people richer who will spend more money. And it will go on and on. So this is going to just so boost the Maryland economy because of all this extra spending going on in Maryland. And I really wish I would have been at that news conference, because I would raise my hand and said, excuse me, potential governor, where is this money tree? Because the only way that logic works is if there's a money tree somewhere out there that you can just go pull money off the money tree and give it to these minimum wage workers. I'm sorry, if you increase the minimum wage in California from $16 to $20 an hour, that $4 an hour has to come from somewhere. It's like you take $10 out of my pocket and give it to any one of you that are listening to this, and you stick it in your pocket, and then you go out and spend it. Yes, you spent $10, but there's no new spending in the economy because I would have gone out and spent that $10 if I had kept it. There's no more money in the economy. It's just different people have it. But unfortunately, since most people have not taken economics courses, they're going to listen to that candidate and say, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, they get more money. Well, that money, the increase in the minimum wage. Have you seen what a Big Mac costs at McDonald's lately? And I'm sure you have. Well, I go to McDonald's and spending more money. So if I got to spend more money in McDonald's because some of that money's going to the workers there, that's less money in my pocket that I could have spent. They're just spending money I would have spent. So one way is for the price of the goods to increase. Another option is, well, the owner of the McDonald's is going to get less profit. Well, that's less profit that he had been spending on maybe a new BMW that would have been produced. And of course, it takes workers to produce the BMW. And don't fall for that one. And the other thing that I just want to mention, there's sometimes, I'm 68 years old. And it's kind of cool. I've seen a lot of stuff over the years. And people will say, well, it's not that easy to firms to cut their labor. They still need workers. Like, okay. Back when I was 18 years old, you go to McDonald's. There was one person who their only job at McDonald's was to make French fries. Because they put the French fries in the basket, put the basket in the oil, and stand there, wait a couple of minutes, pick it up, shake it a little bit, then finally see when they're done, and then dish up the French fries. Well, minimum wage goes up, and they say, hey, we're going to buy some capital. And now all you got to do is pour the fries into the basket, stick the basket in the oil, hit a timer, and when the timer goes off, pull the basket out of the oil. Now you don't need that full-time person making French fries. In fact, they've even gone beyond that. Now it's put the French fries in the basket, press a button. It lowers the basket into the oil, Timer goes up, it raises it up out of the oil. And the other thing, I don't know why I'm picking on Mickey D's, you go up to the counter and say, give me the number 2 meal. And they would say, and what kind of soda do you want with that? When was the last time you ate in the restaurant at McDonald's and they actually handed you the soda? No, they hand you a cup. So they spent more on capital. They put a soda fountain in the restaurant portion of the restaurant. And now customers get their own sodas. We need less labor. And now I think the employees of McDonald's get upset with you if you go up to the counter to order. I know I went there one time a couple of years ago, and I go in, I want to place my order. Oh, please go over to the kiosk and place your order there. Like, I don't want to. But you can tell they got a little bothered by wanting to take my order because they got rid of behind the counter people, put it in the kiosk. When you go to the grocery store, how many self-service lines are there? I have gone to Lowe's sometimes in the evenings, and there are no cashiers working. There's somebody standing there to help you as you go through the self-service. So yeah, please don't tell me that firms can't cut back on their labor, because I've seen it over the last 50 years, how capital has come in, replaced labor. Now, if labor was cheaper, that would have delayed the capital coming in. There'd been more jobs. What did I say? Was it 16,000 people in 1 year got laid off in California? So let me just conclude and ask you a question. If you are a big supporter of increases in the minimum wage, after me telling you that people lose their jobs, people have hours cut, how few people were actually talking about, if you still support an increase in the minimum wage, please tell me a story. Please tell me, what do you tell the people who lose their jobs? And how do you do, and it's more of a moral philosophy question, where you're going to make some people better off, some people worse off, and how do you decide which ones to make better off and which ones to make worse off? I just don't know how you can justify something like that. So if you have an answer for me, I'd really like to hear it. Put it in the comments. And if you enjoy hearing my rants, I'm putting a podcast up at all the places where you can normally watch podcasts. Just search on Eugene Gutwalt, and you're watching this on YouTube, and there'll be a link at top of the page where it has podcasts for my page. You can see my podcast there, my other videos there. So check out the YouTube channel, like, subscribe, notifications, all that kind of good stuff, so you know when new stuff comes up, and you can hear my future rants. So thank you for watching, and I wish you a blessed day.